Okay, good morning. So we're continuing with our thoughts centered around the verse in Numbers, the promise. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. So the little phrase that I'm going to concentrate on this morning is, and give you peace. So what does that mean? So firstly, we should note that it's peace from God. The Lord is giving this peace, so it's coming from God. It's not something we can muster up ourselves, no matter how much we try. In fact, that's counterproductive. This is something from God. It's a gift and part of this bigger blessing. And we kind of have an idea what physical peace looks like. You describe it as the opposite of war. And I guess we see images of war on TV, and the wars that most of us have lived through have been far away in distant lands and have not really affected us much. But I think, you look at the images of Syria and Iraq, and you can see how terrible war is. Absolutely devastates everything, along with killing loads of people. And the absence of that is really, really important, and that's something God wants. And you look back in Israel's history, it's a catalogue of this king did this, they went to war, they were defeated, or they weren't defeated, and then they had peace for a bit, and then they went to war again. And then occasionally you get a verse that says, and they had peace for 10 years or 80 years occasionally. And that's seen as a good thing. And in that kind of society, and indeed in modern society, when you have peace and you have stability, then you have prosperity, which brings a different sort of peace of mind, which we'll come to in a second. So that's physical peace, but there's also inner peace, which we're much more familiar with probably, because we know when we don't have it. We know when we're in turmoil and we're anxious about something and we're worried and we get fretful and we get a bit tense and tetchy. And we want that inner peace. We want to be calm and relaxed and not agitated, and to be confident that things are going to be okay. We want that peace for ourselves and for our families particularly. And that inner peace, Paul describes that as God's peace, which is beyond understanding, which can guard our hearts and minds. And that's not really peace from God, that's the peace of God. And throughout the Bible, God is described as a God of peace. And indeed, you probably can think of the Christmas story when the angels appear. They sing peace on earth, and they say to Mary, peace be with you, and to Joseph, peace be with you. Do not be afraid. So God is a God of peace. And then finally, not just peace from God or the peace of God, we actually have peace with God. And although the verse in Numbers doesn't explicitly talk about that, God is wanting us to have peace, and the ultimate peace is peace with him. And we need to remember that by nature, we are God's enemies. So while we were still enemies, Christ died. And our unfaithfulness, or humankind's unfaithfulness, puts us at enmity with God, as it says in James. So faithlessness, unfaithfulness, makes us God's enemy. And yet he wants us to have peace. He has made a way for us to have that peace. And this promise in Numbers, the blessing in Numbers, again states right early on in the Bible that God wants to give us peace, not just from him, not just his peace, but peace with him. And that, if we can live in that blessing, will transform the way we see ourselves, our world, and our relationship with God.